Well, congratulations on the album Embryonic.
Oh, thank you. I know we really did not know what people would think, so thank you. All the trusted, cool music connoisseurs out there seem to have really gotten this.
Yeah,
one. I know.
I saw a quote from you that I guess it was before you started working on the record, where you said what you were planning on doing was having something where it was like John Lennon meeting up with Miles Davis, getting in a time machine, and then still being able to find modern technology back then.
Right.
Did you meet those aspirations?
Well, I learned a lot from thinking that those two could connect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we, like always, I mean, I think, when you write songs, you get the feeling that, you know how to do it or you know how to do it well. But songs, they're like all art. You go in there thinking you know what you're doing, and then something happens, and you walk out of there thinking, look, we have this thing. And you know that there's a series of coincidences and accidents and just plain dumb luck that lets anything marvelous happen. And I think, in a sense, I'm aware of that. I know Stephen is aware of that. But you still have to prepare for a big project, like making a record. We work with Dave Fridman and everybody's there. And we have to really be, take it serious. And I think the only way you can is to do demos and write songs and all that. But I have to say, to me, that is not where the magic of our records has ever really happened. Anything that you hear that you think, wow, this is kind of special and good, it usually happens kind of spur of the moment. We're trying to do this other thing, and this thing happens. So I think I went in with what I thought were well-written, meaningful little songs that had a lot of possibility. And this is what I would refer to as the more John Lennon type of songs, where it's just a couple of chords and we put some meaning to it. And then we had this invisible stuff that we looked at as, this will be like the Miles Davis, Frank Zappa freak out stuff. And we don't really know what it'll be. And when we started to think we were going to do the record, me and Stephen, because we're the songwriters, we mostly look at it so like, we know what the songs are, but what's the other stuff? And I know that even in the way that we said, what's the other stuff? I knew that we were really starting to get intrigued about this other dimension of like, what's that stuff gonna be? And I have to say, once we started to do what I thought was more the freak out, unscripted, unwritten types of songs, we really slipped off the edge and just went into that. And when we went up to play some of this for Dave Fridman, I think he's cautious because he's like, well, I don't know if you guys want to go in this direction. Are you purposely doing this? And you don't really know. I mean, it's a good question to ask because it's kind of shocking to say, are you meaning to do this? Because some of this is great, but some of it is very weird. I don't know why you're doing it or how you're doing it. Those are all compliments in a way. But then I think he became one of us. And that's what really, I think, makes our records, gives them more intensity and more power, is that we have an idea of what we want the songs to do and the moods and the atmospheres, and Dave Fridman he wants to help us, but in helping us he sort of becomes he's committing the crime with us, and so whatever it is we're doing, once we get him in there, it's just kind of and it's, I have to say, for a subjective experience of making records where you can literally be in a room for 3 or 4 days in a row, simply thinking about sounds and textures and forget that the whole other world is out there. I know that still happens to us quite a bit. So to me, most of Embryonic was made with that kind of mentality, like, oh, wow, we just got lost. Yeah. And then we would sober up. I mean, we would have these breaks where we'd go home for a couple of weeks, and in between I would wonder, oh my God, what are we doing? But I would remember that's exactly what I think the Flaming Lips audience would want us to do.
Right.
Is to just get completely disoriented with our own dumb imagination, our own energy, and our own way of making a record, and see what happens. And I know that's what happens with all of our records. I mean, anything that we've ever done.
Yeah, and Flaming Lips fans also are open to the unexpected visually, and are in terms of the music as well. And you talked about this record as a double album.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not really a double album in terms of the 2 discs or whatever. But
well, some of them are. I mean, you can buy it as 2 discs, and when it comes out on vinyl, there's a version where there's 2. There's actually going to be a version where there's 4, and so but
But I like the idea of what a double album is.
Exactly, exactly. And I think, again, that was part of what gave us this authentic freedom. Because, I mean, you can always say, well, we're going to really get to work and we'll write those 9 or 10 songs that we know will be great.
Yeah.
But then we can just be self-indulgent, weirdos for 10 songs over here. And it's always that freedom. I mean, people will say this all the time. Some of their best songs are the ones they wrote after the record was finished. And the record company said, hey, we need another song. So they just throw something out. And that ends up a lot of times being a classic track. Because for some reason, your mind is on something else while this thing crawls out the back. And it's hard to do on purpose. It is. It's a weird thing. And so I think in some ways we had that happen quite a few times where we were really struggling to make this other song work. And yet this other thing happened while we were making it. And we would sort of look at each other like, ooh, I think I'm liking the accident that happened while we were making it better than the thing that we were doing on purpose. And I know.
Yeah.
You'd think we would know what we're doing by now.
But like a double album, I think when the Beatles albums, the remastered albums came out, I spent a lot of time with the White Album.
Oh, yeah.
And that is such a double album because it's all over the place. And
It is, yeah.
And I think it was you who said that without double albums, you don't get Revolution 9.
Well, exactly. And so, I mean, I was born in 1961, so when those records started to come out, I mean, they were looked at as marvels of art, and it wasn't just pop music or whatever. But I was only 8 or 9 years old, and to me, it was all just dumb music. It was like you could listen to Yoko Ono, you could listen to the Beatles, you could listen to Revolution Number 9, you could listen to all that, and it was just a group. To me, it never seemed like, oh, this is experimental, and this is pop, and this is psychedelic, and I think that's the freedom that we wanted. That I don't know where something like a Revolution Number 9 comes from, but it probably only comes after you've done these other more standard things, and you kind of have an urge to be unrestricted and and be more abstract. And and don't get me wrong, the Flaming Lips, if any group ever has been free to do whatever they've wanted to do. Beyond almost any group I can think of, we've been successful enough that we get to keep going, but not so successful that we think we should keep doing the same thing or that we even have a sound. I think we do, but I don't think we are doing it to say, oh, we need to please the fans who think we have this sound. So we've just been free to just do whatever. And I think Embryonic is a great... it's a great relief to me that we didn't know if we had yet another dimension in us. And as we got to 3/4 of the way done with it, I was like, I think we have another thing. I don't know if it's any good, but I think we have yet another thing. That if you can say the Flaming Lips have been this and they've been that, now they're this. And I like that.
Yeah.